to thank you all for coming. We just have two big topics that we wanted to talk about. Obviously, one is pretty close and topical, which was fireworks, right? I think there's been a lot of concerns around safety and issues with fireworks. So we heard a lot of complaints and conversation from our constituents. So we wanted to make sure that we addressed them and also gave you a public forum other than just calling departments and city officials on the phone, because I feel like a platform like this can drive a solution. And then also, why not talk trash, right? Which is also a topic that I think is of conversation and is important to a lot of people. I will say in defense of the city, I think they've gotten a lot better at that, but that's going to be a later part of the program. We've also brought a lot of city department and officials here to answer any of your questions and to also get into more of the, the granular details of the issues that the city faces operationally, the issues that the city faces from a resource perspective. The city's covering a lot of ground, which is great, but we're going to try to drive solutions tonight. So I think the first kind of conversation that we want to have is maybe just, around fireworks and the safety associated with those. Because I think there's a big difference from what is a permitted commercial or professional fireworks display like we see down at Fair St. Louis and we all enjoy, and a couple of guys in their backyard that have polished off a half a keg of beer and decide to start blowing things up. How safe is that for the neighborhood? How safe is that for our citizens? Right, there's plenty of studies that show that it contributes to, it enhances post-traumatic stress syndrome with people who have that. It also drives animals crazy. I think the dogs were barking in my neighborhood for 6 days straight after the fireworks. So it's a nuisance and it's a quality of life issue, and I don't think we should ignore it. There are plenty of people that will likely say, well, the city has other priorities, and that certainly is true, but I think we can work on everything together, and that's why we've kind of brought this panel together. So I think maybe it might make sense to maybe start with what ordinances are on the books from a fire perspective and a safety issue. And Chief Jenkerson is going to give us a little bit of background on that, and then also maybe, Chief, if you could explain what you face operationally, and then we'll all try to collaborate on some ideas around what the landscape is.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. Fireworks also drive me crazy. So it's not only the animals, the pets, and people with PTSD. St. Louis Fire Department prepares for 4th of July every year. We know it's coming, we know what's going to happen, and we always prepare for additional fires. This year was a little bit different, and I talked a little bit about it on TV. The size, the sounds, the explosiveness, the flammability rating on these fireworks were totally different than anything I've seen in 40 years. A lot of these fireworks are being made on the black market. You buy them off the internet, buy the fireworks at a stand, combine them in your basement, make them bigger, and that's what we saw. Like I said, every year we know we're going to get hit pretty hard. We talk to the other departments within the city, refuse, and we try and get all the dumpsters in the alleys emptied early because we don't want dumpster fires. We go through a lot of different planning outlets to try and reduce the loss of property and hopefully the loss of lives because of illegal fireworks. Last year, 2017, I lost a firefighter because of fireworks. Today, I was notified that he did receive his public safety officer's benefit. His widow did. So this topic touches close to my heart. This gentleman, this fire captain, was getting ready to retire last year in August, and he died a couple days after the 4th of July. So my feeling as fire chief, there's no place in the city of St. Louis for fireworks that are set off by the civilians in our town. Commercial grade, totally different. We inspect them, we permit them, we make sure everything's safe. We look at who makes these fireworks. A lot of the fireworks that we're seeing in the city now, they're just black market. We know that they're above the size that is required. Just this year, just to give you an idea, we had 509 calls in a 24-hour period on July 4th. That's 83 of them were fires. We had 15 garages, over 50 dumpsters, 7 vehicles burned, had 7 extensive weed and grass fires. We also had a 2-alarm fire that burned down the Macklin Deli. And we knew from the start that we had an issue over there because as the companies were coming into that fire, they couldn't tell which building was on fire because there was so much smoke in the area. So this is an ordinance that is on the books. It is illegal to shoot off fireworks in the city of St. Louis. I'll take questions, but my feeling as fire chief, because of the density of our city, the closeness of the buildings, they should be kept illegal. Bottom line. I don't know how you want to go with questions. You want to wait till the end?
Okay, that's a good idea. We'll wait till the end until everyone speaks.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, I think next we'd like to hear from the police perspective. So we heard from fire and rescue. Captain Moore, are you prepared to kind of give some remarks, or Captain Deba? Would you mind speaking a little bit from a police perspective? Great.
Second district here. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Hey, again, to get on point, what we do in all our District 2 meetings, give me the questions, give me the hard questions. And that's what I expect from everybody here. We're going to answer them the best I can from an operational standpoint as a district captain. So let's start. First question.
We're going to do Q&A after Chief Dickerson, the police have a moment to just sort of talk about the landscape, and then we're going to do Q&A with the crowd. So you're first up.
So am I correct? Questions later? Okay. So operationally in the second district I speak about, and Captain Kreisman and Captain Moore might have had a little bit more or less. I had about 400 calls for service for fireworks. I talked to Chief Hayden about this right after the fair, and from my perspective, we have a rule, a law in the city of St. Louis: fireworks are illegal. How do I approach this when I have the masses violating, disregarding the rule? It's incredibly hard to attack, to address. We've also met the last week, at Captain Kreisman and I and Captain Moore, some of our commanders, and hey, for next year, to try to spin forward, we're maybe some public information sent out regarding, hey, it's illegal, here's what it can do. It can hurt young people and old people. But again, more so the commercial grade fireworks, extremely dangerous. And again, fireworks are illegal in the city of St. Louis. So we're dealing with that, but also I think we can go out, I'm just paraphrasing, is it Jefferson County or right over to Illinois, somewhere close, we can bring fireworks right back in. So at that level, again, not to pass the buck, I'm saying that's from our elected officials at the state level maybe. So we need to all think about that. So it's hard when in the second district, majority of phone calls I receive, my residents aren't happy, so I have to respond and be prepared, but I also have to, at 9 p.m. that evening, I have to prioritize calls. What's more important, 50 fireworks calls, a holding for a larceny, a stealing, a theft from a motor vehicle, a vehicle accident with injuries, and I have to prioritize that, or my sergeants and lieutenants have to. So again, I'm not trying to give anyone an excuse. I'm telling you operationally how it happens on my end. And on top of that, staffing is an issue also. So with that said, and this is hard for us to hear up here, where's Aldermen Ingrassia? You want me to take questions now, or you want me to wait? Okay. All right, well, listen, thank you, and like I said, when we get to the questions, I'll be here, till everybody's, lets me know what they need answered. Thanks.
All right, I think the next thing we wanted to talk about before we open it up for Q&A is just to put into your minds and the minds of the folks who are on the panel today that there are some cities who are doing things a little bit differently. Obviously, the ordinances that we have on the books are currently not working for us. We have limited ability with respect to enforcement. One of the things that we've been talking about as aldermen amongst ourselves is whether or not some of the bigger events like Fair St. Louis, are they paying their fair share with respect to law enforcement? Are the other counties that are surrounding us that have residents coming to Fair St. Louis participating in ensuring our residents that are outside of the Fair St. Louis area are still protected? Could there be a fireworks detail? Would it be possible to permit certain areas to set off fireworks for residents at a minimal cost that could be monitored by the fire and police department and then heavily enforce other areas? And so I just want you to all keep that in mind sort of as we're having a conversation that we don't want this to just be blame related. We want this to be a problem solving session. And so if you have ideas in that regard, that would be really helpful as well. And with that, we will open it up for Q&A. Just one question per person, please, and be respectful of the panelists and each other. Thank you so much.
You wouldn't mind maybe just stating your name and just a few ground rules for questions. Maybe try to keep them to 2 or 3 minutes. We would love more questions because those help us drive solutions as opposed to statements, but statements are certainly welcome. And like all the women said, we'll just form a line here and get started.
Thank you, Alderman Oldenburg. I'm Dale Sweet. I'm a resident of the Gravely Park neighborhood, and I have a lengthy plan that would actually help with this problem. This format is probably not the right place for it. It involves cooperation from many city departments. It involves cooperation from the sheriff, the license collector, the police department, the fire department, public safety, the board of aldermen, the utility companies, and so on. I'd be happy to share that very briefly. So we have to also think about this not in a vacuum. A lot of the questions and concerns that people have about fireworks also happen on New Year's Eve with the midnight shooting of guns. And we know that that's a horrible public safety disaster also. There are also people who would like to turn the issue of fireworks into an issue of race, and it is not one, it is an issue of public safety. Short of a statewide ban in Missouri and Illinois, we're always going to have some. But there are things that we can do. And that starts with taking a look at the calls for service, the 500 addresses, the 600 addresses, and so on. And in November of this year, and in May of next year, sending letters to the property owners and to the occupants of those addresses. This letter could also come from an insert in the water bill, an insert in the sewer bill, an insert in the electric bill, and so on. And so once we have identified these addresses and given them some kind of notice that we're really serious this year, the other thing that we have to do is stem the tide of the black market fireworks that the folks in the police department and fire department are telling us about. And so we've long known that we have white vans on streets all over the city selling fireworks that they purchase out of fireworks stands in Jefferson County and St. Charles County and so on. Unfortunately, I can't think of a way other than incentivizing tattletales. That is, come up with a monetary reward, advertise it in the American, advertise it in the RFT, make it clear that fireworks are illegal in St. Louis and in St. Louis County, right? And so this is regional. And we already have the laws on the books, right? And so we actually put out on billboards, in the newspaper and so on social media, that there's a reward for the illegal sale of fireworks in the city of St. Louis, right? You see a white van coming down your street selling this stuff out the side door, selling this stuff out the back door, you can get money for turning that in. If we can cut down on some of that, then we can also cut down on the loss of hands, fingers, lives, dumpsters, cars, and so on. Moving on real quick, is anyone lining up behind me? Okay, folks. So we also have municipal court dockets for Mardi Gras, We have municipal court dockets for the 4th of July. And what is that for? That's for folks who violate our ordinances while they are enjoying holidays in the city. We can open up a municipal court docket. We can use that to finance the rewards. I'll cut this somewhat short here, but I'd also like to point out again that there are ideas, and Alderman Ingrassia mentioned some of the more progressive ones, and they are wonderful. And that is finding a way that we can do things safely. And so years and years ago, and we're going back decades and hundreds of years, we had fireworks in other parks besides the Gateway Arch and besides Sublet Park. And there may be a way to do that and invite people to those places to enjoy them safely with appropriate details from the fire department and so on. But a multifaceted outreach involving multiple departments and to eliminate the black market trade of things coming into our city, no sales tax, no business license, and so on, is the sort of thing that will take several years in order to make happen, but it is possible to make this not a war zone where we have to deal with phrases such as Drano bomb. I have no idea what a Drano bomb is, but I know what it sounds like. And I have to sleep with my noise-canceling headphones I bought to wear to the shooting range. Thanks very much to the members of the board who put this meeting together. You all are wonderful. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
You said that you had to prioritize calls, but in Condell and in my neighborhood, it's terrifying to drive down the street. If the cops just went out and drove down the street a couple times and ticketed people, arrested people, I mean, they're shooting the fireworks in the street. You have to, and they don't stop for you. So if the police drove down the street on the 4th of July, or the 3rd, or the 2nd, or the 5th, you would catch a lot of people, and I don't understand why you're not doing that. That's my question.
The young lady has a valid point, and I understand the emotion and frustration, but I guarantee you, the 3rd and the 4th, a police car just driving, they were going somewhere. We are understaffed, folks. And again, I have to prioritize. Everybody in this room wants me at their house if they think somebody's breaking in, or a car accident and a loved one's injured, versus a fireworks call. Again, that's what we have to do to prioritize, to answer the question the woman had. But as far as operationally, I'm open to any suggestions. But what he's suggesting also we have to take into account, we have officers at the fair. Maybe we need to look at, hey, are we charging them appropriately? Should they hire other security to get our officers back in the district? Yeah. But here, I'm just throwing ideas at you, but I understand. I was out there that night, and it's dangerous and it's loud, but I guarantee you, it's a fact. We don't always just drive down the street. We don't have time to do that. We're driven by the radio from call to call to call, especially on a night like that. So I know that doesn't, make anybody feel better, but it's the truth. So anyway, next.
I just wanted to expand on that. How many tickets or summonses were given that night? In any district, it doesn't matter. I know I personally sat down with 6 officers at the fair for an hour having dinner, and they weren't on break. They just had nothing to do. So if we're not going around giving out tickets or summons, why are they going to stop? There's no reason for them to. They're not getting in trouble. We're getting in trouble by our stuff getting damaged, by our yards being damaged, businesses being lost. But there's no summonses, there's no tickets, there's no warnings. Does anybody have a number on what district those were given, like the 1st district, 3rd?
Well, I can speak for the 1st, Donnie, or Dave, chime in. I don't think we issued one
Okay.
in the second district. Okay, but secondly, here's a good observation. You can tie into his plan. Okay, the only way we're going to figure this is together, working together. Okay, remember that. I mean, that's the truth in communication. So with that said, maybe when I say we, all the leadership.
Right.
We're not pointing anybody out. We need to reallocate our resources wherever, more effectively. So again, I'm not trying to give you an
No,
excuse.
No,
but
absolutely, but you
that's an
said
idea.
zero versus I don't know, I'll check on it.
Right.
You actually gave me an answer.
Right.
No, I appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you.
Hi there. My name's Janice Taylor. I live in Holly Hills. And I don't know how many other areas suffer this, but the fireworks is not just an issue for us on the 4th of July. Of course, it's much worse at that time. I bet there is not a weekend all year that we don't hear fireworks coming from someplace. And the confusion as to whether or not it's fireworks or gunshot keeps everybody a little bit tense. We call it in, it moves around, it's not at the same place all the time. I'm sure if anybody here, is on next door, they've seen accounts of hearing the fireworks here or there. Sometimes it's neighbors. Most of the time it's not. It's people down by the railroad tracks or at a schoolyard. It goes on all year. And I'd like to see some action taken against the people setting those off. It's not just the 4th. We need attention given it when it happens and where it happens. So.
It's a good point. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Clay. I'm part of that area. And I understand everybody's here regarding the fireworks, but I also want to be here regarding the drug issues that we have. The people coming and parking in front of my house and doing drug deals, where to the point where I go knock on their car and ask them to move from in front of my house, because I don't want that in front of my house. Not only that, I've contacted Ms. Martin on several occasions, and I haven't got any response from her regarding this. Not only that, I live on the street where we have children and it's elderly and everything. It's speed bumps, people can come up and down Alabama like it's the highway. And I contacted regarding that, like I understand all this about fireworks, but what about everything else that's going on? What is going to be done about that?
My name is Janet Taylor, and I live in St. Louis, Alabama. I live at the end of Bush School athletic field, which is bounded by Fakeman, Clifton, Highlands Avenue. And except for this summer, the last 3 years since I lived there, someone was setting off commercial-grade fireworks in this schoolyard, which is surrounded by 50, 75-year-old oak trees and homes on both sides. Last summer, not this summer, the summer before, sparks were coming over my house. This summer, I talked to Tom and he talked to police and some other people. The person who was doing it did not show up, but I was at my window with binoculars on and off for about 5 hours watching the yard. But there were people setting off fire rockets in the parking lot next to the school to be closer to the school, which would set the school on fire. Something I've run into that we need to consider in our solutions to this issue, whatever they end up being, is that there is a general attitude, and I've encountered this in one-on-one conversations and on social media, that it's a risk that only comes up once a year. And I'm not saying it's a prevalent attitude, because I really don't believe it is. I believe most people don't want to see illegal fireworks, and they'd rather go to see a good display, as would I, because I love fireworks. I just don't want them near my house or near anyone else's house setting off a fire and potentially injuring or killing people and animals. But the attitude that I run into is that it only comes up once a year, what are you worried about? And I actually saw a post on Nextdoor in response to a threat about the illegal fireworks. And one person wrote, well, that's what insurance is for. And I didn't respond, I didn't know what to say to that. I'm sure the owners of Macklin Deli would not be to find that, and I'm sure any of us as homeowners would not be happy with that either. But I think we need to consider a smaller population of people that have that attitude, that what you worry about, it doesn't happen that often. It's only once a year, which it's not. So I think we need to keep that in the back of our mind when we're working on solutions too, because those
go out there with your cars, and when you get back to the city, they sell them out of the houses, people come back and get them, and it's just a business. Wherever I live, the majority of the houses are frames, and that's a fire hazard. I came out, I parked my car on the street, and I found a Roman camera on top of the car. My question, a comment. So I talked with my neighbors, and one neighbor said that the gentleman on our street didn't have a problem, because he ran his water fountain, his sprinklers, all during the 4th of July time. Now, if somebody's got to do that to keep people from shooting fireworks or putting moisture on their house to keep it from fire, then that's a private problem for the fire department, fighting fires when they need water. So that's my comment.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. My name is Susan Blair, and I live in town myself. Thanks for everybody being here tonight. My question, I have a really perfect understanding of what our options are for law enforcement, what the penalties are for fireworks. And what I'm wondering is, if we're going to continue to have this sort of problem, is there some way we can monetize it? I mean, can we make the fees so exorbitant for anyone caught with fireworks that we raise money to have more enforcement the following year? I mean,
I think it's working for parking in St. Louis. they're making some cash. So can we find some way to more heavily penalize people who are doing this? And if somebody could briefly go over what kind of a summons you can issue right now, what are those options? Because I don't have a great understanding of that. Thank you.
And I live in Dutchtown. I'm kind of shocked and I'm appalled. You know why? Every year, I've been here for 8 years. 8 years. Every year, there are people calling 911, giving addresses. Every year, they're giving addresses of residents that are firing fireworks, rockets, every year. 911, you're getting all these calls. How come no one have been documenting these addresses and knowing that each year you're going to have these same people at the same address firing off fireworks? Every year for the past 8 years. People on blocks know every year who's going to be firing these fireworks. Every year, 911 is called. So how come no one's been monitoring the addresses? That would save everybody a lot of trouble. Every year. I can name some addresses right now on my block. Next year, they're going to be firing fireworks. It disturbs me. It disturbs my dog. It disturbs elderly people. It disturbs disabled people. But some people don't care about other people. They don't care. If you complain, if you show that you don't like it, it gets worse. It gets worse. So a solution would be, if there's any kind of way you could go over those 911 calls and go back. If you could go back just a couple of years, you'll find out who's shooting these fireworks. You'll find out. So then next year when July comes, 4th of July comes, you'll know that these are the addresses and this is where we should be looking. I mean, do that make sense? Document each call from 911, then you'll have your solution.
Hello, my name is Heather Stout. I'm a resident of the 11th Ward, and I have a question. I think it's really perhaps for you, Chief, but I'm sure anyone else could jump in too. My question is, you said that there was a difference this year than last year, and that you noticed that there are people who are combining fireworks together. What are you seeing that's different this July 4th versus last year?
I will say last year, we put out message after message last year because we had a very dry 2-week period before the 4th of July in 2017. We were ready for it. We had a tremendous amount of garage fires, dumpster fires, but we didn't see the big mortar rounds that are up in the air. A lot of the novelty type fireworks, the fountains, the sparklers, you see those all over the place. Those don't cause us the issues. The black market fireworks that are what I refer to as like a mortar round, it looks like a baseball or a softball size, 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, up to 5-inch round. It gets shot out of a cannon, if you will, like a mortar out of the ground. They're very low grade, and a lot of it falls to the ground unburnt or unspent. So these are falling on roofs, garages, and they're hitting the ground and still burning. The quality control in a black market firework is not there. There's always mishaps, more often than not, and that's what we saw this year. As we were responding on calls in the city for a report of a fire on the roof, a lot of times it was one of these mortars that had landed on the roof and was still burning because they're low grade. The Fire Marshal's Office for the City of St. Louis provides permitting for professional grade fireworks people. And we make them pre-shoot everything they're going to use in a show. We inspect it. We want to make sure where it was made, that it's certified. And even doing that, we still have a few issues with the misfire. But we have it protected. We establish a fallout zone. We want a certain amount of area where if something does go wrong, it's going to fall out. It's within the safety zone. We have fire marshals on scene. We have firemen on scene when they do these professional shoots. These black market fireworks that we saw this year, the size, the sound. The other issue with them, when you go to a professional show, you're looking at a report that goes off 400, 500, 600 foot up in the air. This low-level, low-grade black market fireworks, these are just as big, but they're going off 50, 60, 70 foot in the air. That's the difference. You'll hear them. Sometimes you don't see them because they're so low, and that throws all the flammable products onto the lawns, onto the garages, onto the cars. We got a tremendous amount of calls for car fires. When we got there was no car on fire, but the paint and everything on the outside was singed and burned. That's the difference. They're low grade, they're inferior, and there's no quality control on them, and they're low level. So the net causes us big issues.
Market fireworks coming from? I mean, I think there's been a lot of comments to where we think they're coming from, but what is the source that worries you the most?
Speculating, you're able to buy quite a bit of the material that you need to make fireworks online, and you build them in your basement. Toilet tissue rolls, paper towel rolls, and they make their own, and they experiment with them. And that's the problem. The internet, you can buy anything you want. Or go out to St. Charles and buy the smaller fireworks, break them apart, and combine them. A lot of experimentation.
Gwen Murray from the Bevo neighborhood. I think we heard from you, sir, about District 2, and there were no arrests, no citations. Did you guys get the numbers on any of the other districts? Did you?
I did request numbers for calls and percentage of tickets written, but so far we only have the number of CSB complaints. I can go back and look, and I will. I'll announce that.
And you also mentioned working together on this problem. I think we're showing good faith in being here tonight on working together. But I also want to let everyone up here know that this year, As the chair of the Better Beaver Now Neighborhood Association, I tried to work with our local union fire department office on doing a series of small PSAs to just raise awareness about the effects of these fireworks on humans, animals, domestic and wild. I know all of my bats freak out on the 4th of July, and property. It could have been a fun little series that just raised awareness, pointed people to where they could go for official fireworks, talk about numbers, what it means when places catch fire. I also anecdotally heard that there were so many officers at the VP Fair that there were 2 of them to every attendee. Is there, apparently you're under some contract, but isn't there a way to redistribute that when they're standing around having dinner? You know, we lost a fireman last year, and this year we lost a deli that served as a community center, and I ask you, when's enough? When do you stop saying to us, what can we do? I mean, we're here and we've brought ideas. I want to see that back. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Pam. I live across from Carondelet Park, and I was wondering, with the low police force on the 4th of July, and we know who's blowing off fireworks, is there a way that maybe July 5th we could meet with you and let you know who these people are that are setting them off so that you can ticket them and get this enforced? Because if nobody's getting a ticket for blowing off fireworks, they're not going to stop. Is there anything that we can do?
To look into to figure out how we can do that operationally with the resources and how we can put, I mean, can we put a task force, or can there be an assignment of officers or even some of the fire department resources that can help handle that?
We can come up with all the ideas that we want in this meeting, but if they're not enforced, there's no accountability, right? I mean, that's really, to me, where the key problem is exactly, there were 0 tickets written 4th of July for this. That's the problem. If there's no accountability, if there's no ticketing, if there's no fines, if there's no repercussion from doing something illegal, then what's the point of having the law? Correct? So, I mean, that's key. We have to have an all-encompassing solution to this, but at the end of the day, enforcement is a must and is key. And we got to do whatever we can to support our police, to get you the staff that you need. I don't know. I've been in this city now for 9 years, and it's been the same. I hear the same thing every year. We don't have enough police. Let's get that taken care of. Let's get what we need.
Hi, my name is Joe Strauss, and I live in the Vivo area. And I want to know what Mayor Cruzen and Kim Garner's approach is to the police chief and so forth about enforcing the law that is on the books, that us voters and stuff have made. If you look it up, the ordinance, the city ordinance, it's there. Why aren't you guys enforcing it? Okay? You can go to Jefferson County, you can go to St. Charles. Maybe one idea is you show your license. If you live in the city of St. Louis County, you cannot buy the fireworks. You have to be 21 to buy alcohol. They ask for your ID. We got to get with these fireworks stands and say, and have them show proof that you live in an area that you can shoot off the fireworks. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take one more question after you. Thank you. Oh.
Carol, I live in St. Louis Hills District. I've observed fireworks coming from Bishop DeBerg, Wilmore Park, my neighborhood, my neighbors. So if Fair St. Louis is generating revenue, why can't they have their own security? And, it's obviously something that needs to be looked into. I would recommend establishing a hotline, a firework hotline, and redirecting the resources for each district to accommodate the calls and issue the citations.
That's a good suggestion.
Also, I thought we had a director of public safety. Is he here tonight?
He was invited.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Okay. Well, I think so now, last question. Here we go.
Thanks. My name is Tom Moran. I'm in the Compton Heights neighborhood. A lot of great ideas here tonight. How does this not be just a nice meeting to have, and we forget about it? Like, what's the follow-up? Can we maybe talk about that at the end? Like, okay, this is what we can kind of commit to doing for the community at the end of this meeting.
That's a good point. With this meeting that we hear, I think that's important. That's why we want to have this, and that's why we have a lot of the city departments here. We have representatives from the mayor's office, from the police officers, and obviously the firefighters, so that they can all hear and we can all hear together in real time and take some action afterwards. That is the point, and that's a fair point, because there are far too many meetings that happen, and it has to be more than just therapeutic to hear from you. We have to actually do something to respond. So that's a good point. Now I think this is probably the part of the program that we might transition to trash, and we want to hear some of the comments and questions you might all have about refuse. So I think we want to maybe invite some of those departments. I think we have a representative from the mayor's office, as well as the director of streets and refuse, Jamie Wilson, and Deputy Commissioner of Refuse, Randy Breidenfeld, bringing them up here.
Just to point out, in the back there is water and iced tea if anyone is thirsty, so please help yourself. Obviously, this summer we've heard a lot of complaints about trash. We've all seen it. And one thing that I've sort of discovered is there's a disconnect on why people are calling, whether it's trash has not been picked up or if it's a dumping issue. So I want to get into that. But first, I'm sorry, I want to introduce 3 more aldermen are here. Alderman Annie Rice, Alderman Heather Navarro, and then Alderman Brandon Bosley as well. All right, so let's start over. So the dumping issue, people generally call CSB. And one thing that we've sort of figured out, I've met with the mayor's office, is CSB wasn't necessarily sending these complaints over to the trash task force. And as alderman, I heavily rely on the trash task force. I would say it's an incredibly successful program. And the officers will come out, they'll assess the dumping, they'll investigate, they'll talk to the neighbors, they'll call the person who complained, and they will get it cleaned up quickly. Every time I've had to call the trash task force, it has been picked up within 24, 36 hours. And I cannot thank them enough for that. So you can directly call this task force, and we have someone here to speak on that. But the mayor's office is committed to working with CSB and explaining when you have a dumping issue, please connect them with the trash task force. Don't just call refuse. So a lot of people aren't aware of this service that the city's providing. So I'd like to invite Sergeant Calabro to come up and speak on that.
Can everybody hear me out there? First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight. Obviously, you all take a lot of pride in your city and the neighborhoods that you live in. My purpose here is I want to go over a few things as far as the Trash Task Force is concerned. What is the Trash Task Force? What role do you all play in the Trash Task Force? And what positive strides have we all made with your help? Starting with the Trash Task Force. I am the commander of the Nuisance Problem Property Office, which also includes the Trash Task Force and animal abuse cases. The Trash Task Force works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, patrolling the areas, your neighborhoods and alleyways for illegal dumping. You probably have all seen it, stacks of tires and trash and debris, couches, It's very frustrating to see all that everywhere. But I'm going to talk to you about some of the positive things that have happened since January when I took over. One of the things I want to note is many of the illegal dumpings are occurring by contractors who come into our great city and decide to dump in your alleys. You pay as citizens for those dumpsters and your taxes. Just to name a few, violators have come as far as Bonne Terre, Missouri, Florissant, Cedar Hills, St. Louis County, Belleville, Illinois, Fenton, Bourbon, Missouri, just to name a few. Like I said, very frustrating to come into our city and dump in the city of St. Louis. What role do you all play? A major role, major. That phone number, 622-4800, should be memorized as well as the 911. That is the number to the Citizen Service Bureau. I'll say it again, 622-4800. When you call, we need you to give as much information as possible. License plates, colors, time of day, what's being dumped. We need that type of information. We need good witnesses. We also have over 100 cameras deployed throughout the city in the alleyways, and we use extensive technology to put those cameras in the best possible place. We analyze the calls that come in from the Citizen Service Bureau. Those are plotted out on a map, and then we put those cameras out there to catch violators. I know many of you have asked about stats and statistics, and I just have a few to mention. Since last year, comparing last year 2017 to 2018, since January 25th to the current date, we've had collected over $11,500 in fines by violators. Over 105 summonses written and issued by the City Councilor's office. On a positive note, 8 persons have received the $100 or eligible for the $100 rewards. Many of you may not know, but if you were to call it in and your information were to lead to prosecution, you would be eligible for a $100 reward. How many of you knew that today? Great. How many of you have used the Citizen Service Bureau and called the 622 number? Very good, very good. I'm sorry?
Because CSB isn't calling you guys, which they're supposed to be now. CSB wasn't.
So let me point out to you, when you call the 622-4800 number, it's really important to let them know if you feel that it's illegal dumping, to make sure that it's assigned to the Trash Task Force. And to give you an idea, you guys have been doing a great job, honestly. Last year during that same time frame, there was 400 calls for service since that January 25th to current. To compare that to this year, there's 1,200 calls for service. That's amazing. That means that people are getting the message and they are calling it in. But you have to make sure when you call it in, you specifically say that you want the Trash Task Force to investigate that crime, okay? Is there any questions about that? The fines can range up to $500 and 40 hours of community service per charge, okay? I also want to send a shout out a little bit to the Forestry Division and the Refuge Division for being a partner with us in the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. They've done an outstanding job. It's not easy to investigate all these calls and to narrow them down to ones that have solid leads. We're also working with the Neighborhood Improvement Specialists, the City Councilor's Office. They're doing a great job. And the neighborhood and residents, like the opportunity I have today to educate you a little bit on the Trash Task Force. So how do you also contact the Trash Task Force? If you have your pens and paper ready, besides calling the 622-4800 number, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, we ask that you also contact us by using the Twitter contact of @STLCSB, @STLCSB. You can also email at csb@stlouismo.gov, or you can use the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department's downloadable free app. How many of you have ever used that app? Great. Hopefully that number continues to grow. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to our moderator here, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. And also I want to thank our refuse folks who just walked in the door as well. I don't think you can miss them. Next up, I have Jamie Wilson and Randy Breitenfeld with the refuse department.
All right, excuse my voice. I'm back from a week at the beach with 5 kids, so I'm a little hoarse this week. I apologize. My name again is Jamie Wilson. I'm director of the street department. For those that don't know, the street department consists of the refuse division, the streets division, traffic and lighting division, and towing. And as well as that, we've got our director's office, which handles all the permits and the inspections that we have in the city. As far as our refuse division, I'd like to point out that Randy Breitenfeld's up here, our Deputy Commissioner of Refuse, and as well as a couple dozen of our drivers back there, and Eric sitting here to my right. Basics of our operations for refuse, just to give you guys kind of an idea, wrap your mind around what we've got going on as far as collections in the city. We collect over about 140,000 tons of solid waste, your typical trash, about 20,000 tons of recycling every year, and about 20,000 tons of yard waste per year, and about 20,000 tons of recycling every year as well. So that's about 33,000 dumpsters and about 43,000 roll carts. Our operations on a daily basis is broken down into alleys and our cart collections. We have 55 total routes, 42 of those are alley routes, and about 13 of those are cart routes. We've got 84 trucks in our fleet and up to 69 drivers in our table of organization. So our issues of recent that you've probably been aware of and that we've run into is our lack of ability to keep our trucks on the streets for a couple of reasons. They're old, they're beyond their lifetime. Our average age is well over 10 years. A lot of the trucks we have are the year 2000s, which no one in that back and up here is that fond of 18-year-old vehicles. Obviously, it's hard to keep them repaired and on the street, and once they're on the street, it's hard to keep them on the street. So that's an obstacle that thankfully last year, after efforts have been made to upgrade these trucks, or have a plan to upgrade these trucks, we now have the plan through that fee increase from last year that afforded us the ability to have a plan over the next 10 years to completely replace our fleet of trucks. So we'll, in the end, purchase another about 80 trucks. Unfortunately, we can't do that all in a single year. We can't buy 80 trucks in 1 year, so it's in segments and phases every year. We're a year into this, so we've gotten the first 12 or 15 trucks. We've got another 12 coming before the end of the year. So that's the good news. The bad news is we're obviously not at that point where we replace our whole fleet, where it's not just a turnkey operation overnight. So where we find ourselves in right now is that interim period where the plan hasn't taken full effect. We're a year into that 10-year plan, so we're not going to realize the impact of that plan until later on down the road. So what do we do now to get over this issue of not having enough trucks out there? So typically 45 to 50 vehicles are available for those 55 routes a day. So any mathematician could tell you that we're on the wrong side of that, in the red, as far as trucks available to go out every day. In theory, we like well over that 55. It would be great to have 65 or 70. So the trucks that are running, once they go out, there's ones that come right back. So if I start with, for example, we had 46 trucks today. If I have a couple roll out and come right back, we're back in a situation where now we're at 44. So we're on schedule tomorrow. We've got 50 trucks. So hopefully we can get back closer. But as you can see, that number goes up and down as far as our ability to keep those trucks on the road. So what are we doing? That's the problem. One part, we've got the upgrade plan. That's great. Obviously, I described how it hasn't taken full effect yet. We can't realize those impacts until down the road. So right now, we've been trying different iterations of what can we do from on the manpower side, on the workforce side, to try to compensate the fact we don't have enough trucks for all these guys at one point to have a truck to go out. So one thing we tried in April was to split that shift. So instead of having all of our drivers together at one time with not enough trucks for them, to split that shift into 2 shifts within a single day, 4 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., so 2 8-hour shifts. Obviously, we fixed the truck issue. There was enough trucks at any one point for our drivers, but the other thing is now we turned a 10-hour route into an 8-hour route. So there was difficulty in completing those routes within those 8 hours, as well as the fact it was a challenge and a sacrifice for these guys on their personal lives to all of a sudden change from working at 5:30 in the morning till 3:30, that all of a sudden now you're a 4 a.m. guy, or now all of a sudden you're a guy that works till 8 p.m. at night. So I've got 5 kids, and I find out I'm working till 8 p.m. every night indefinitely for 3 months, and that's a big deal. And I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. These guys are taking on the burden right now. The weight is on their shoulders as far as these revised work hours to compensate for the fact we don't have these vehicles, and not enough, I think, is said about that. And I think the sacrifices they make and what they've taken on themselves from a personal side should be acknowledged. And honestly, I wish I could do more than just acknowledge them for a clap here. We'll see what we can do. We're also, so we came, that was our first idea. Let's split that shift into the 2 shifts in one day. So I already described, and that's not really sustainable for a couple of reasons. The 2 I described, and as we get here with daylight savings, we're gonna nip in the heels of daylight savings where it's gonna be dark at 5:30, so it doesn't make as much sense. It wasn't the biggest issue when it's light out till 8 p.m. at night, so we don't really want to be out in the alleys. These guys don't want to be out in the alleys trying to do that operation with limited light conditions. So right now we're back in our original 4 10-hour day shifts. We're working a lot of overtime. They're working a lot of overtime on their off days to collect stuff that's been missed because of the issues we've had. And like in the middle, when they're off on Wednesday, they're picking up the stuff that they didn't pick up on Monday or Tuesday. And then on Saturday and even Sunday at times, we're picking up the stuff that wasn't collected on Thursday and Friday. Not for lack of effort, but because of lack of just pure logistics of ability to do that with the equipment they have. So starting next week, next Saturday, we're going to try another iteration. Instead of splitting the shift into 2 within a single day, we're going to split the crew into 2, and they're going to have the staggered work days. So it's all 4 10-hour days for each shift, but we're going to stagger the way they work so they're not occupying the same days. So instead of 4 days we're operating, we'll be operating on 6, but it'll be one crew works 4 10-hour days, one crew works another 4 10-hour days, but they're stretched apart as far as their days off. So what that does is it minimizes, instead of all those trucks in those 4 days, max demand, we stretch it out and now we minimize it to 2 days of full demand for trucks. On those other days, they're operating on 45% to 65% of the trucks that we need. So hopefully with that ability to not have all our trucks out every day on the street, it gives our guys from equipment services the mechanics a chance to catch up on those repairs versus all those trucks being out every day. So again, that's going to take effect next week, but again, here's another challenge. These guys are taking on the weight of the world, and now all of a sudden one crew's working Saturdays through the summer. So both the split shifts that we work within a single day and this our latest revision here, they're taking the weight on during the prime summer months. Again, it's another sacrifice that's being made as they help us overcome this obstacle. And just recently, our mayor last week met with them. Last Friday, I was at the beach, but she came in with some staff and talked to them as far as their concerns as they go through these revised work hours. I think that was right at the 5:30 start in the morning. So I guess really what I want to leave you with is not pulling you into the weeds. We'll definitely answer your questions. I just want you to know, we obviously know the problem. We've tried multiple solutions here there's a lot of different factors here from the equipment side of the equation. We've got a plan. I would be very afraid to be up here if we had no plan in place. I mean, if we didn't have that plan, honestly, everything we're doing now is making up for the fact that we didn't have those vehicles ready for us. So, I mean, if we didn't have that upgrade plan, a way to replenish our fleet, this would be a pretty scary meeting. The other part of it is working on those man hours. So we're doing what we can from the equipment side and the manpower side during this interim period to do the best we can. Again, it's not lack of effort. Any of these guys will tell you the effort's there, and I just want everybody to know that. Thank you.
Next up, we have the refuge drivers shop steward with AFSCME shop steward for the refuge drivers, Eric Westner.
Good evening, and thank you for having this forum, especially the aldermen who arranged it, and all of the people who've come down recently to address our issues. I'm a former over-the-road trainer in tractor trailers. Coming to this position and getting on the right side of the truck after going to Kirkwood Community College to train for that position was like going back to school again. That's just to drive the vehicle on the street. Taking it through the alley, trying to make a turn where my tail is 3 inches off a telephone pole, I'm putting the front right corner or left corner of my truck 2 inches off your garage just so I can clear a telephone pole or a garage on the other side by 2 inches. It takes a lot of skill. That's just to drive the vehicle. Imagine a dollar bill. When we operate these trucks, we have to make 2 simultaneous connections 15 feet behind us in the mirror to pick these cans up without destroying your property. It's not an easy job. It's extremely skilled as far as the physical aspect of it goes. Beyond that, the mental stress of paying attention to your property with the cans that are moved, the bulks behind them, what have you, in order not to destroy your property while we do it, is like driving on ice for a 5 or 6 hour shift. It's a tough job. We have a problem recruiting people who have the skills just to operate the vehicle, let alone the initiative and the logistical skills to follow what they're doing and safely and properly execute a route. As they've expressed, they are over a period of time resolving the truck issues, and nobody wanted to pay more for trash. But I think the politicians for having the sense, the Aldermanic Board for having the sense of appropriating that money so we actually can get those trucks. Unfortunately, it's long past due. But as I said, it's an extremely difficult job. Every one of these guys here and the other 40 of us that aren't here today, we take pride in our jobs. None of us wants to sit in the yard and not be able to go out and do our job. And most all of us have voluntarily, prior to the situation we've come into today, run voluntary payloads for years in order to cover sicknesses, injuries, vacations, what have you. We do take pride in our jobs, and we're happy to serve. So we ask that you continue to support us, not only to get the equipment, but to get us the respect and get what we're worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Please come up, and depending on who it is, I believe this mic works.
My name's Jack Uxa. I live in Tower Grove South. I would like to know what one truck costs new.
$250,000.
Cheaper than I thought.
$150,000 if you didn't hear that in the back.
I have no problem with these players. They're doing a fine job. I want to talk to you're the manager. You're the boss, correct? What's your budget for the year?
20 million.
20 million. I looked it up today. Am I too loud? 17 million was in the city budget. Now, when you say 17, does that include the 110,000 residents that you picked up $14 a month, or is that another 18 million?
I'd say the 20 million represents the grand total. I would say 9 or 10 million of that is just the labor cost, and about 5 million of that cost is for our transfer station where the trash is dumped and taken off to the dumps. So probably 2/3 of our budget, or $20 million, just for those two components.
How much a ton it costs you to dump the trash?
34 and change.
34 and change? So before 2010, so I'm sure of this, we used to never get a bill. Then 2010, we got $11 a month bill, and now it's a $14 bill a month? What happened to the money?
That was well before my time, but I will tell you, my understanding is the general revenue can only be stretched so far that they had to get charged for those services in order to do the things that we're talking about today, as far as the fleet and be able to afford the salaries for our staff.
Should we be in the trash business? I'm asking the older person. Should we be in the trash business? I don't know.
That's a good question. I serve in the 20th ward. To answer the question, I believe you asked first, how much that's coming from the fees. The majority of the budget does come from the fees. I believe it's around 18 million that comes from the fees. Last year we were generating about 15 million with the additional $3. We get up to about 18. We still subsidize that a little bit with general revenue. So to answer your question, I think first and foremost, we need to make sure that our city employees that have been serving the city for years with trucks, to give you an idea, the vast majority of our fleet is well beyond its useful age. The average lifespan of a garbage truck is about 8 years old. 50% of our fleet is over 10 years old. We have 20 trucks that are over 20 years old. These guys drive some of the oldest trucks in the nation, okay? And they do a pretty good job at it when their truck is working. And they're paid about the bottom of the national scale when they come in. So if we do privatize it, my gut tells me it'll be more expensive for the end user. We failed to do general fleet maintenance by replacing those trucks on an annual basis for a long time. That's how we got into this pickle.
So the problem happened before all you got here. Is that it?
No, I agree, but it's a question that ought to be answered. But I think first and foremost, we need to make sure that we do take care of the guys that have been picking up garbage for us for a very long time and doing a good job of it.
You raised $3 a month last August. You could have bought 16 trucks by now.
Really quickly, this may not be a super popular opinion, but I have been speaking to private waste management companies. So if you pay a monthly fee for solid waste collection, recycling, and yard waste once per week, that averages about $25 to $30 a month and does not include bulk pickup. Bulk pickup runs between $130 and $150 per truck per hour. So I think that I've only been around for a short time, but I think city residents are very lucky to be paying $14 a month for their trash pickup and probably should be paying more.
Wait a minute, $14 plus our 1% income, right? That was one of the pluses when we got to the city, right?
Well, I'd be happy to talk about this offline. Thank you for your coming.
I have been really frustrated by trying to make the trash work. I have 3 dumpsters beside my house, and I've lived there since '81. So it's like I've seen time pass. I've seen trash problems. And what I find, especially now, I love the idea of the Citizen Service Bureau, the numbers right on the dumpster. I have it memorized, 622-4800. So if you have a half hour to wait before they answer the phone, you might get to talk to somebody, and then they dissuade you from doing anything. Well, how do you know it was them? Can you prove it? Do you have pictures? I've talked to the people. There's like different kinds of problems. There's incorrect dumping by residents. There's people who clean out apartments and put the whole sink and vanity and the drawers into the regular trash dumpster. Then you can't put your trash in. People put mattresses in there. They put pieces of plywood sticking out of the top. There's many people who know. We know. We live there. People are all over next door talking about, do you know what I saw? Do you know what I saw? If that information could easily be communicated without all these layers, between us and the people who might actually resolve it. I think I used to talk to the trash task force more directly and actually say, you know, I know it's the lady across the alley. She doesn't seem to get the idea that you can't put those kind of things in the trash. I've talked to her, she's mad at me, she says she pays her fees, you know, and we almost have a fight in the alley, and I'm like, okay, go home. But when I call Citizen Service Bureau, they're like, well, can you prove it? Is there an address on it? I'm thinking on a... Okay, go.
First and foremost, as I said earlier, I think the only thing what they're appropriating for $3 that they don't take it comes directly to refuse and trash for the trash.
What do I do with the fact that this has been occurring every year for, I don't know, at least 8 years? And I call every year, every single year. I call when there's weirdo things in there. I call when the boxes aren't collapsed. I talk to the people. I try to be nice. I really try to work with people.
You know what, we've got, I think you are absolutely right. It is infuriating. It's infuriating. I think we've got some answers right. Officer Gallagher.
So, again, with the trash task force, you contacting the Citizen Service Bureau at that number. It is important, they do need to ask some detailed questions when they call in, because a lot of times we get people call in and just say that there's a couch in the alley and they don't have any witness information. They don't know what time of day it occurred. You know, we need those kind of questions answered. It's really important because you have to have quality information coming in so that we can do a better job. Now, as far as the Citizen Service Bureau, you know, when you're talking to them and whatnot, it might be a little frustrating. I don't know how backlogged they are, why it takes so long on the phone, but to get through, I can't speak on behalf of them, but I will say, like I said, based on the number of calls that have come in the past 6 months and the number of calls that we investigate is far, was it 3 times the number of last year in just 6 months alone. So it has changed. We hope you take advantage of, if you don't want to talk to a person on the phone, like I said, you can use the mobile app or you can send an email. But when you do that, make sure, just like when we're doing general patrol, make sure that you leave your contact number, leave that callback number. That's really important because we will contact you. There's no doubt about it. We have to go through all those service requests and contact someone. So that's an opportunity to get even more detailed information when we're talking to you on the phone. And a lot of times we'll come out and talk to the citizens. Sometimes they're not comfortable with that. They don't want you coming up to the door. We've met people in the alleyways because they don't want to draw attention to themselves. We understand.
I would love to meet somebody in the alleyway. I could point out the whole problem if somebody would come to the alley. I mean, really, I could just say, look, it comes out that gate every year. Every year it is done. It lasts for 3 months.
So all I
every
can say
year.
is to encourage you to continue to call and to give it a try. Whether you used it in the past and you haven't used it recently, just give it a try.
I bet you I've made 15 calls this year.
Please continue to call, please.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Annette Canteri, and I live in Boulevard Heights. The issue is more bulk pickup. Several times this year, we're on first Monday. Well, bulk pickup will come on the last Monday of the month, and people are put stuff out in the alley like on Tuesday, not realizing that bulk pickup has already come through on the last Monday of the month. Another thing is I did contact through the website and put things on site, and and I did it as a complaint through the trash task force. And Officer Navarro did get back to me, and he said that this is not a trash task force issue and to get a hold of my alderman. which I did through Facebook and nothing happened. The other issue with the bulk pickup, if you look at the dates go back to 2011. So the dates to have people be aware that they're supposed to have bulk pickup and what dates we have, the information is not correct on the dumpsters we have in the alley. So that's been part of the problem when just the neighbors are dumping the bulk pickup that they should have picked up.
Is this on? Okay, yeah, with the bulk pickup, that is a big problem. I mean, most of our crews have to go back through the alleys twice every week because that's the problem. We have people don't set it out on Monday. We can be in there on Monday, we can be in there on Friday. So yeah, that is one of our big.
But you don't even do the right Monday.
Well,
I mean, we're supposed to be the first Monday, and they're coming through. If the first day, if the first is a Tuesday, they're coming through on the 31st to pick up bulk pickup, which is not our date to be picked up. Does that make sense? Am I clear?
Actually, it doesn't make sense because I mean, all my crews follow strict routes.
Well, I can tell you at least twice this year that's happened, where they've come through on the 30th or the 31st, which happens to be a Monday, and they picked up there's no bulk or people put it out, because the next Monday is actually the first Monday, which should be our day to pick up.
So I think about 2 or 3 months, maybe more out of the year, we have 5 Mondays. And a lot of people are confused about that. They think that last Monday is their 4th Monday. So during those 5th weeks, we'll run specials all over the city doing.
We're first Monday in my neighborhood. And if they put stuff out, they'll put stuff out the following week. And so some of that stuff sits in our alley for a month.
Right, and that's what we use these 5th weeks for, is to try to address those kind of situations.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Don DeVivo from Ward 22. We probably are the trash problem in the city. Our ward is probably the worst ward for trash of all. And I'm also looking up here and I don't see Alderman Jeff Boyd, head of the Refuse Committee, up here today.
Alderman Boyd is hosting an official committee meeting here tomorrow morning.
Oh, that's great. I'll see if I can make it back.
I'm sorry, it will be at City Hall, and I know it's during work hours, which is one reason why we have this evening, but he is taking action tomorrow morning.
Okay. I reviewed a February 2018 refuse meeting, and at that meeting, the spokesman for the refuse department came up and talked about the 25,000 dumpsters and the roller carts. I'm sorry, I probably mixed those up. And he also said that over the last 3 years, that he's lost 10% of his mechanics to budget cuts. Are you guys really getting rid of mechanics that are needed to repair these trucks over the last 3 years? I'm serious, because you got old trucks, and if you're letting your mechanics go, how do you expect to keep these trucks running? Who wants to answer?
That is a different division or department than the street farm. We'd all like more staff, police, refuse, equipment services. We'd all like more staff, and we'd also like salaries that make it competitive to keep them in the city. And the ability to add more people in our budgets to do even better services. It's a challenge when you present it to the budget division. They have a lot of, besides just the street departments, besides just police, besides just equipment services, to weigh. There's only so much money going so many different areas in the city. As much as an argument we can make about a particular issue, whatever the issue is right now, I think there's equally others that make arguments in other areas, in other disciplines within the city that justify some of those funds too. So in the end, they have to make a decision the best they can as far as what budget each division gets, and then do your best in your respective departments to operate within that.
So who would be the responsible party to talk about the mechanics that work on the vehicles? Who would that party be?
That would be the mayor's office. I know one suggestion, we may need to look in the future and look at our mistakes as far as what the alderman control of the budget, but do we not buy a truck and do we hire mechanics with that money? Maybe we need to look at that and see, as far as our maintenance plan goes, because we've spent 10 years without any maintenance. We need to look forward and address that. And that will be one thing that's addressed tomorrow morning.
At Alderman Boyd's meeting?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
And you can watch that meeting online, just FYI.
That is where I get most of my viewing, is online. Thank you.
Good, we're glad somebody's watching. Thank you.
Hello. I'm in zip code 63113, and that zip code is just about all vacant lots and vacant homes. Now, this is the place where I guess commercial or anybody just come and dump. I call and I report on these dumpings. So I don't know what else I could do, because I call right after they dump and it'll take up forever for them to get back out here. But now my understanding is that the city dump allows city residents to dump once a month, is that right? Well, can't we just add another day, maybe twice a month for them to dump, and maybe that would help some?
That's a great question. I know a lot of people that live in the city and are landlords and they have multiple properties. It's an issue. We want to offer them something, they're doing the right thing, and so that's a really good suggestion.
I mean, who do you contact to get this started? Twice a month dumping at the city dump?
Well, you did just get the message out to a lot of people. It would be the mayor's office ultimately, but we can, as aldermen, certainly suggest that and ask that in our committee hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jay Renee Leisure, and I don't know, I have got out in the alleys where my grandparents have lived over in that area, the Tower Grove area for 65 years, 68 years, and they refuse to move. But us kids get out there with gloves and pick up the trash because people have to put the trash somewhere, and, but like that lady just said, that would be a good idea to double up to more trash, especially, Mr. James, to you. I've got tickets of where people went to Imperial and everything and bought fireworks, and they filled up 7 dumpsters. And then by time the elderly got to take it or other people got to take it out, they're full and there's nowhere to take it. So us kids put it in a trash bag and we take it down to Uncle Bossy's house and they burn it. But we're still paying, I know that, I know, but they got a place way up in the lake. I know, sweetheart, I know. I'm talking about when we ain't got no place and they're paying for this. But I think a good idea, because I used to work for the city, is maybe not, if we get some mechanics that know what they're doing and safety-wise, to refix some of the trucks so those drivers back there don't have to be going so much and be so tired all the time. And, because us taxpayers and you taxpayers and them, we're paying so much money. If we take the old trucks that ain't working, just like, if we take the old trucks and try to fix it, if it can be fixed, let's fix them. If they need to be painted, hey, we'll get some school kids to start painting orange, to get them out of trouble. But people filling the dumpster with furniture, shopping carts, tires, And then now what they're doing, even when the dumpsters are filled, they're just dumping it behind our garages. So we can't even get our cars in and out to go to work. I mean, and then the next thing, the cops, and it just gets one after another. But I mean, I know you guys can only do so much, and so can we, but we're the ones that are out there risking with the crazy people that want to start a fight, because we're picking up and we're trying to get it clean, because nobody wants no flat tire. You know, I mean, this has been going on so long, it's way overdue. I mean, maybe if we can put more dumpsters until we can, and then that way we can, us to pick it up and put it in. If we have a bunch more dumpsters put out there, then we can clean it up so you guys can get the trucks down there to pick up in the alleys. Okay? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael Hagmeyer. I live in Crondelet in the 11th Ward. And I just wanted to bring a little perspective on, there's a little bit of talk about the fees and maybe privatization. And my partner and I moved here from Portland, Oregon 5 years ago. And they've, as long as I've lived there, they've had private trash pickup there. And I think it was about 25 years ago, they switched to a franchise system. Portland, Oregon. And so I looked up what their trash pickup rates are, and you get weekly recycling and yard debris pickup, but every other week trash pickup. And for a 20-pound or a 20-gallon can, which is pretty small, it's $27 a month. So already almost double what we're paying, and for a 32-gallon can or a 35-gallon roll cart, it's $32. So we're paying significantly less than that. Now, they don't have dumpsters there really at all. It's all individual cans. So that's, you know, I understand that there are pluses and minuses to the dumpsters. There's no accountability for people putting stuff in the wrong, whereas in Portland, if you fill your can, if it's too heavy, they just won't pick it up. Or if you put things that aren't supposed to be in the recycling can, you'll get a note that says this is not supposed to be there. And it's a little hard to do that with a dumpster. But privatization is definitely not a panacea, because they pay significantly more. So thanks.
Hi there. Thank you for making this forum possible this evening. I'm Kathy Greminger. I live in the Compton Hill neighborhood and in the 6th Ward. The question I have is, this is a problem that sounds like it should be citywide to me. What I don't understand, and I've contacted some friends that live in different areas of the city, they haven't had a problem with their dumpsters not being empty. And I just wondered how that can be.
Well, as it's been expressed already, we have gotten some new trucks in. Maybe 30% of our fleet is model year 2010 or newer.
Right.
Those trucks continue to run. The drivers who assign those areas are able to go out and make their collections, and those are the same people when they finish that are going out to do somebody else's route. As well, we're being mandated to go out on Wednesdays, Saturdays, sometimes even Sundays. This is the first year ever we work on Sundays or on holidays, which we did.
Right.
But when you have a driver that has a truck that is functioning on a regular basis, he's going to be able to collect that route on a regular basis. And then someone else, when he's finished, will take his truck and try and go to another area. As we replenish the fleet, you'll see that the regularity will continue to expand as well. And again, as I said, if they are able to increase our rate, we'll be able to get more people in to go with those trucks until we have the entire city covered on a regular basis.
So as it stands right now, there are certain areas of the city that are getting coverage on a regular basis and some that are not?
Management is following the logistics, and And it may be an example where a driver has his regular truck, he'll go out and collect your location on a Monday. Because somebody else hasn't got the collection for the week, instead of going out and collecting yours the second time on Thursday, he'll go out and collect a different location on Thursday. So it appears to ebb and flow. I don't believe there are any areas in the city at this point in time, once they've started trying to manage the logistics better, that aren't getting collected at all.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Mona, and I live in Soulard. I live in the 2400 block of 13th Street, and we have a massive trash issue on a weekly basis, and we have had for years. We have 20 families that use our alley, and we have 4 dumpsters, 1 recycle bin and 2 refuge. What I would like to see, and I've asked Citizen Service Bureau to put a request in for someone to come out and do an evaluation. Barton Street lofts are also at our alley. They have now taken their private dumpster away. I have turned this in a month ago. They dumped a bunch of stuff in the alley. I took pictures, I sent it in. They waited until Big Trash Pickup came and took it away. And then Big Trash Pickup took the bigger items and then put the smaller items in the dumpster, filled our dumpster back up again so that we weren't getting regular pickup. So then we had a dumpster that was too full, we couldn't use it yet again. So I've been complaining with Citizen Service Bureau so much, they gave me the trash task force number because she was sick of me, because you can only make 3 complaints per day at Citizen Service Bureau, which I think is total BS, to watch myself here. My understanding is that the trash task force number, and please correct me, and I hope this is the wrong number, is 657-1722. That is the number that she gave me, and I've just been angry with you because it's been voicemail full. And I assume that is a wrong phone number, because that's what the Citizen Service Bureau lady gave me as the task force trash number, and I didn't believe her because it didn't start with a 622. But I am so frustrated with the trash, I want to murder you guys. I feel like the alley Nazi person. I'm serious, it is awful.
Right? Well, right into the murder part, I was going to say, the Citizen Service, Jamie here, let's just talk after this, get your location and just cut to the chase.
Really, there's another alley on Lynch that has 2 dumpsters and there's 4 families on the street.
We'll get that location.
2400 block of 13th. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Orlando Fletcher. I live in Benton Park. I'm also a refuge driver. My concern is what the lady alluded to earlier. My alley wasn't collected a couple weeks ago. I put in a CSB. We got an email saying that it was resolved, and I walked outside, and there was trash there. I also work in Ward, I think it's 23. I have a route there behind Ted Drew's. I also have a route at Chippewa and I think Broadway, somewhere around there. And I was pulled off that route to go out and service Ward 23 because an alderman called in and basically declared a state of emergency. I have an issue with that because that area, that ward, it's...
I can't ever thank you enough for coming up here and letting
I'm not done.
You've been wondering for a while that some aldermen are getting preference over others.
Okay.
And some wards are getting preference over others.
Another concern is you guys, well, you said, Jamie, that these guys, that we've been having the burden on our back. My question to you is, you're going to work Monday through Friday, whatever time you want, and you're going to be able to spend time with your 5 kids. I have a 6-year-old daughter. I have a nephew that plays for Westminster, and he's going into his varsity year. I've attended every game up until now. I was just mandated to work every Saturday. What are you going to do to, to be a team player? What are you going to give up you know, as far as your schedule goes. I mean, there's preference in wards. I don't get it. What I want to say, it won't be politically correct, but I mean, it's crap. Ward 23 shouldn't get any better treatment than anyone else. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. I met with Director of Operations and other folks about the CSB issue. Every single day I get a complaint from a constituent that CSB has closed out the ticket saying it's fixed, whether it's forestry or whatever, and it's like you go out there and the tree is still there, it hasn't been trimmed. So I'm hoping that they're working on that and we'll no longer have that issue, and that also CSB will be more pleasant on the phone.
I think a few things going on in our city that we all kind of have to realize that it's good for us all to be in the room to have the information and get it at the same time. Because a lot of times we have this department not communicating with this department, we have this other person not communicating with this other person. We got this side of town, the same things going on this side of town. So we all are in the same room having the exact same issues. I'm an alderman from the 3rd Ward, that's Natural Bridge and Grand if you're not familiar with it. So that's right off Salisbury, right off Grand and 70. So we have the exact same issues when it comes to the trash. And it's a lot of things that I think people really don't understand when it comes to the dynamics of the city and what's going on. I want to speak on what we just spoke about just a few minutes ago as far as the trash not being picked up adequately in different neighborhoods. The way these trucks start being disseminated, when we do get the new trucks, if you are a seasoned driver in the back, can you raise your hand for me? A seasoned driver, right? So the people who are seasoned get, they get to choose the route that they want, from my understanding, correct? Okay, thank you. So we just had a streets committee here a few months back, right before we start getting the trucks, and what was being spoke about was the seasoned drivers get to choose their routes, and they choose the easier routes. So I said these individuals choose the easier routes, but whoever chooses, whoever is the seasoned driver, they get the new trucks. So if, like he just said, if we're in a Central West End and their routes is a little bit easier, and you have to understand why these routes are easier. In my ward, I have over 220 blocks, and that's because we have a lot of vacant land, we got vacant parcels. The city is broken up by population. So you have high rises in the Central West End, you have more, a larger population, in the South Side, which we all know is not as many vacant houses and things like that. So you can service a lot more people by going to service, that high rise of 300 people. So those individuals won't have that big of an issue when it comes down to trash pickup because you can service that whole community. So, things kind of make sense. We have a lot of things going on in the city. I think one thing we don't realize is that we're losing population. So we're all going to have to continue to put a hand in. Yeah, the trash won't get picked up on time right now, but it's just being realistic. That's something that's going to continue to happen until, like I said, we roll out these plans and we get all of these trucks, but it's good to know why things are being disseminated the way that they are. So that is just the truth. The people who have the new trucks that are going on these routes, and they have to wait till they get to other neighborhoods where the drivers aren't as seasoned to be able to take care of the routes. And it makes sense at the same time. If you're an unseasoned driver and you haven't been on as many routes, it might take you longer in a day to finish a route. So when we take a seasoned driver maybe 6 hours while we're waiting on trucks, it'll take somebody else maybe 10 hours. So it's good to kind of understand the dynamics of everything, so we're not turning each other's throats apart. Everybody is trying to figure out what to do in the city to make it a better place for everybody to live. In CSB right now, they're doing the best that they can, but the departments aren't always speaking with each other. That's just being realistic. That's something that we all have to figure out. Our lines of communications are terrible right now, and everybody that works for the city can tell you. That's why you can call CSB, and they'll say that your case is closed, and it's not. You can walk outside and see that it's not closed. It's not CSB. It's that department saying that this is closed, and that driver or that individual who's supposed to do their job got out there and said it was closed, or it wasn't, or it's been a few weeks, and sometimes they just close them out. There's a lot that needs to be addressed, but there's a lot of mixed communication at the same time. So, I just wanted to kind of put that information out there. All of our people in the city are working as hard as they can to try to figure out these trash issues. But another issue to understand is if the people on the south side don't get an adequate trash pickup, at some point in time, the dumping is going to come to the north side or the central west end because there's nowhere left to dump. And we have to look at ourselves as a city, as people, and see what we want to do about that. We need to change our city charter. Right now, you can dump a truck alone in a house on a lot, and you only gonna pay $500 for it. That's not a deterrent. Nobody, you take that risk when it takes you $1,000 to go drop it off in the correct place. You'll pay that $500. So we want to see adequate change over the next 4 or 5 years. We have to look at what we want to do as a city to change that charter. It should be 30 hours of community service. The minimum should be 100 hours of you working in the community where you drop that trash off at. We need to have some of the highest trash laws in the nation if that's what we want. If we all run with trash, then we need to be looking at what we can do so we're not here next year talking about the same thing. There needs to be a charter change. We are coming up on election in August the 7th. We have another one coming up soon. What we need to do is come together as a city, look at what we want those laws to be. We wanted 100 hours, 200 hours of community service. If we catch you dumping, then that's what it should be. And everybody out here should have, come out and support that so we can get ahead of all of this dumping and not spending millions of dollars on this stuff as the years go by. But that's what needs to happen. You have to have a charter change. It's only $500 for dumping. That's not a deterrent. It doesn't make anybody want to get outside and clean up their trash either. If you know that people are cleaning up trash for 200 hours because they threw down a McDonald's bag, 9 times out of 10, nobody's going to want to throw down a McDonald's bag in your neighborhood. So, this is something I think we just continue to be as a city, and things will just continue to get worse if we don't get ahead of it. We have to put the laws exactly where our mouth is. We have to put people in the positions out here cleaning up. They have to have the authority to be out here and say, this house is the one doing the dumping. They are the ones, so we need to get them out here cleaning up the entire alley over the next 200 weeks, because they are the ones who we know is dumping. They see the trash more than we do. They're the ones picking it up. They can tell where it came from. They're driving through every single alley. We only, we pull up and we drop off trash whenever we're going through alleys. This is their job. They're going to see a little bit more than we do, just the fact that it's their job. So, that's just one thing I wanted to make sure that we kind of look at as a whole and as a people. We have to start putting our city a little bit ahead because people will continue to leave if they come and we see trash everywhere and we can't get it together. So let's change our statute and give these people a little bit more to work with and ourselves at the same time. Appreciate it.
I think we had one more question. Is that right? Did you stand up to ask a question? Or make a statement?
It's a statement, a question, and I want to comment the drivers, gentlemen and ladies. You guys do an awesome job. I really appreciate it. I know how hard it is to drive that truck up and down those alleys. I drive a truck every day at my job, and it's tough. People don't realize when they cut you off, you only have so much time to stop and brake. And also, when you're in tight areas, I understand that. Totally understand it. I applaud you guys. Thank you. Also, I hope on these new fleet coming in, I hope we have a preventive maintenance program coming in on these trucks. And I also hope if you get 10 trucks, you move 10 trucks out, and maybe instead of buying 10 or 15, maybe buy 14 and keep the money from that truck and put it towards the maintenance of the good older trucks. And also, I lived in the Princeton Heights neighborhood, grew up in that neighborhood my entire life in the city of St. Louis. This city should be clean. I remember as a kid, there used to be trash cans, and the trash men used to get off the trucks. There used to be 2 or 3 guys jumping off and picking it up. We got dumpsters now that came out in the 80s. What I don't understand is some of our citizens do not have common sense, because I got 2 dumpsters behind the back of my house, regular refuge and a recycle. I got a garage and a carport. When I open up my garage door or the carport to get my vehicles out, these people are stacking the mattresses, lumber, and all that. When the one-armed bandit comes down, I feel sorry for the drivers, because when they lift that bandit up, or the dumpster up, all the crap falls down. Guess who's cleaning it up? It's the homeowner behind the back of that house. And I tell you what, my neighbor and I, we got a camera. And I think the trash rule is, or the bulk pickup rule is, if you got bulk pickup, you put it behind your house, not next to the dumpster. So what we do is we got that camera, my neighbor and I, we see what neighbor does it, we carry that crap right back over to their house. And you know what? They need to realize and wake up and smell the coffee. And you know what? And also these younger people need to realize what to do too. all you have to do is pick up the crap in your alley, and then the alleys would be clean. So, enough of me. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I want to thank you all for being here today. Thank the sheet metal workers local here for hosting us here tonight. Thank you to the refuse workers who came out on their night off to come and represent all of our city managers that are here today that came to answer some very, very tough questions. The captains of our police and fire departments, AFSCME, the local that represents our refuse riders and many of the city workers. And thank you to the news media who came out and did a great job of shedding some light on some of these issues. We've come with some really great solutions here. Many of you brought up many good solutions. I want to say, as a representative of the city, that the situation that we have right now with both refuse and fireworks is completely unacceptable. We do not expect any of our citizens to live with garbage in their alley and unsafe fireworks going off on a regular basis in their communities. We are posting this to let you know that we don't think this is acceptable. We agree